Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of Nutanix Weekly. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. I've got a full house, like literally a full house. Let's see. Oh boy, I was gonna make a comment, but that would have come off really wrong. So I'm just gonna hold off on that one. But I got a full house. I got 5 people counting me. We'll let Harvey be the Joker, and then the rest of the cards can be whatever they need to be. I got it perfect. You got me, the Joker, and 4 aces.
Nice.
Ace.
Sounds like a winner.
It's
Well
getting kind of
played.
deep in here.
Well played, Andy.
You know, if I throw a little Southern accent on that, aces could be something else, but that's all right. All right, so got Harvey Green. Harvey Green is the head of XenTegra Gov, as well as architect over here on the XenTegra side of the fence. Harvey, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I cannot believe it's 4:05 on a Monday. I feel like I've got nothing done, but I probably say that every week, so it's really becoming redundant. Jaira Cox has been one of our co-hosts. I called him a guest one time. He got mad at me. Been one of our co-hosts for a long time now. Jaira, how's it going?
I'm not sure almost anyone would ever believe that I actually got all the way mad.
That's probably true.
Doing okay, man. How you doing?
That's probably true.
Speaking of that, well, all right. So first of all, it is 4:05. Is that coffee you're still drinking?
Technically, every Monday has 2 405s actually, but this is actually tea.
See, all right. No, caffeinated though, right? What time do you go to bed at night?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Goes to bed at night. And I have to ask, what does the shirt say?
This is a Big Kahuna Burger. It's that Hawaiian burger joint.
Yeah.
That's from a movie.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right. John Spallone's been with us a couple weeks now. John is a newer co-host. John, how's it going?
It's going.
John, how much do you know about ServiceNow?
I know how to spell it.
How do you abbreviate it?
SN?
SN or SNOW? Eric, which one is it?
Well, it depends. Are you trading stock or writing it in a message?
You're writing in a message, I guess.
You want to do SN probably.
If you're trading stock, it's SNO, right?
Actually, it's NOW.
NOW, no,
Nice.
SNOW, right? There's an S, right?
SNOW is another company.
Holy cow. Well, I
You
mean,
guys
You've
ever-
been trading the wrong stock there, Andy.
Eric, do you guys never say snow?
People do, it has been done, but because there is a competitor in that space with that acronym as actually the name of their company, we try not to use it.
Got it. Do you say, if you had to read SNW aloud, do you say S now? I'm so curious about corporate guidelines.
I mean, we're pretty much always ServiceNow or now. It's
Oh, that's
Yeah.
concise. Yeah.
yeah, it's probably either one. You know, like our internal pages, there's a group page called We Are Now, as opposed to like We Are Snow or Snow or any, like we just kind of avoid that.
I think this just graduated to being the most technical podcast ever.
You know, to be honest,
got like-
if any of you seen the movie Super Troopers? I mean, because right now I'm just seeing that whole meow part, right? Meow.
We got 4 to 5 SEs on here, depending on how you count. Like accuracy is going to be a big part of this.
Pretty deep.
no, remember we got 1 joker and 4 aces.
I was giving you partial credit.
All right. Well, guys, we had talked before this, and now we're going to execute on it, about covering a blog recently off the Nutanix blog site. And the title of it is Provision Databases Easier with Nutanix Era and ServiceNow. And I think what we really want to focus on is this particular use case, as well as just more and more integration with products with ServiceNow and the ability to automate and make things better. Yes, that's right, Jaira. I said automate.
Real quick, Andy, I think I'd like to get to know more about Eric.
John, thank you for keeping me on my toes. Eric and I go way back. We've been doing a ServiceNow podcast for a while, but our audience here doesn't know him. Eric, tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, how's it going? I'm Eric Schwartz. I am a advisory solution consultant for ServiceNow. I've been with the company for, it'll be 4 years in a little over a month. And prior to, or so I'm predominantly in a pre-sales role within ServiceNow, big focus on our partner ecosystem. And prior to my time at ServiceNow, I spent a lot of it in a lot of your areas of expertise, data center, cloud, infrastructure, software, kind of networking, servers, storage, etc. So I have a wide range of experiences to pull on. I have some unique experiences specifically with Nutanix that maybe I'll have an opportunity to mention today. And otherwise, I don't know. I'm based in New Jersey, so I'm on the East Coast for those of you listening far away, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thanks, Eric. Eric's a super knowledgeable guy. I've yet to find a ServiceNow topic that he couldn't talk to in a great amount of detail, even though he likes to kind of humble himself a little bit and say that he can't, but he can, because he always does.
Fake it till you make it, Andy.
Well, hey, if the other people don't know any more than you do, they probably don't know. Yeah, my message is, people say, well, just pretend all the people you're speaking to are naked. Well, that's kind of hard sometimes. But pretend they're naked and pretend they don't know any more about the topic than you do, and you're good to go.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, the opening article or the opening paragraph here talks about the fact that database creation is a redundant task. That's really what we're talking about here, right? Things that are done over and over again and can be efficient processes, and how we take tools and software to make them more efficient and automated. Harvey, Jaira and I had a big podcast a couple weeks ago about automation, and we talked through my challenges with it. I think we brought it up a couple times now.
Just a few.
Well, and I'll use the Bill Gates statement again. I think I probably used it last week. Take an inefficient task and automate it, and you made it worse. If you take an efficient task and automate it, then you made it better. I think that's what you guys at ServiceNow are doing here with Nutanix around Era and database management, right, Eric?
Well, so I would frame it a little bit differently, and like, we are basically just providing the platform to enable this kind of work to be done, right? So we're not necessarily doing anything here. It's more that Nutanix is using ServiceNow to its fullest potential, which is automating routine and multiple, duplicate tasks, right? So my understanding here is that with Nutanix capability in creating databases and whatnot, whatever it is that they're doing on a repetitive basis can be automated. That entire process can be automated and workflowed in ServiceNow. And I don't want to be jumping the gun, but Nutanix's Era plugin for ServiceNow enables the rest of that workflow to take place inside of ServiceNow, which allows an administrator to do things much more easily, because they can request things and do work all within ServiceNow, and we're just the platform. So
I think I said that wrong, and I'll come back to Jaira now. So ServiceNow is the platform that allows us to leverage the capabilities of the as a service product Era from Nutanix, right, Jaira?
Totally right. Yeah. So if, for customers that have adopted ServiceNow for really all of their processes, right? I mean, Nutanix has for sure everything from like, making food appear at a conference room back when we used to meet in conference rooms, to, getting a laptop, to requesting a new VM, all of it, we do all that through ServiceNow ourselves. And so with this kind of plugin, moving that, where do people go to get a new database online, into ServiceNow is just even more efficient. It's an efficient task magnified through automation, like you were saying, Andy.
Yeah.
Tell me more about getting food by way of Nutanix Era and ServiceNow. I'm very interested.
It's a great feature. Yours doesn't do that? It's awesome.
So let's talk about the power and extensibility of the platform for ServiceNow. I mean, look, there's almost nothing you can't do with it. And as companies like Nutanix internally and externally invest in more services, there's nothing that keeps the service platform of ServiceNow from being able to get the most out of those services.
Yeah. So what I would say is this, ServiceNow, and if you happen to be a listener of the ServiceNow podcast that we've recorded here with XenTegra, you'd hear me talking about a lot of the things I'm about to say. But basically, one of the key capabilities of ServiceNow is our ability to integrate or be integrated to by a lot of different vendor technologies. And so we become the glue that gets organizations and resources within an organization to collaborate and work together. And the other technologies out there are those different pieces that get stuck together by the glue. So in this case, Nutanix knows that they have mutual customers that are also running ServiceNow, and those customers are utilizing ServiceNow to automate IT requests, in this case, provisioning databases and database management. And those requests are manual or slow, or they use disparate systems to make those requests and to get approvals for them. And so ServiceNow plus Nutanix Era allows you to use ServiceNow's requesting tool. You can build an item in our service portal that any of your system admins or database administrators, whatever they may be, can go in and make a request. They're probably already doing other work inside of ServiceNow that, like Jairo was saying, you could request a virtual machine. Perhaps they're doing that to live on the Nutanix platform. And when they're doing that, that kicks off a workflow that goes off and makes a request of somebody. That person can then approve it, potentially from their mobile device or something like that. And then once the approval comes through, it can then it'll get notified. The person will get notified, and the Era system will understand that the approval has taken place. And now the Era software, which can live independently of ServiceNow, but in this case will live inside ServiceNow so it's one pane of glass. The administrator or whatever will take that request and then do the work all right there. So it's streamlining the entire experience, so you don't have to pull up multiple separate windows, different systems, import and export data. It all lives and works and breathes together under the platform of platforms, which is ServiceNow. And the Nutanix system here is just one great example. Nutanix actually has a couple of different integrations that work within ServiceNow. It's not mentioned in this blog post, of course, but they have something that allows some automation around Beam and their Security Central. They have a plugin for that, and some other things too, Calm. So like there's a lot of different things Nutanix is doing to leverage ServiceNow as an engine for automation, requests, approvals, and a single pane of glass to do work.
Yeah, because fundamentally what Era is doing, right, to bring either a new database or a copy of a database or a new database server with empty databases into being is minutes of work, right? But it's for some companies that can be minutes of work stretched over weeks of approvals and meetings and planning. And when you can collect all that, make ServiceNow the pane of glass, right? The store that users go to make that thing happen, and then just kick off hey, okay, now we have all the details. Go do the thing. It can happen so much more rapidly. So when we can make that process, which is fundamentally, so much more easily done through Era, part of where you already are in ServiceNow, that's a real benefit. Then also the big one in my mind is that extension of functionality, right? Of add approvals, right? Change who can do what, because there already are users within ServiceNow that understand, management hierarchies and so forth and permission models. So maybe, one person can, create new databases, but maybe somebody else, has the power to delete them, right? Or approve the new space consumption or the compute consumption. So all that kind of good stuff, so much more easily done through the engine ServiceNow, where you probably already want your approvals routing to, right? So we don't have to go invent that out of, brand new code ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So
that's a really great point.
Andy, I have a question here. So with this integration of both ServiceNow and Nutanix, are we talking about pre-configured digital workflows that we can just plug in to go through these processes, or is this something that we have to develop on our own, or is it if this then that type mentality as we build out these flows?
So I can take a stab at answering that question. So first of all, ServiceNow allows you to build any workflow that you basically want. So if you have some person who makes a request of someone else or another system, and that workflow does not currently exist today, you can just build it. And there's a really nice and easy UI based workflow builder that allows you to say, who's requesting what the approval threshold needs to be, if it's automatic or not, et cetera. And then all of that and that entire engine is built, ready to go. In this case, and in a lot of cases, what happens is a vendor like Nutanix will build a plugin for ServiceNow, and attached to that plugin will be actions that can be requested of that plugin or other things that are connected into it. And that can also include parts of or entire workflow examples. And so depending upon what it is that you're asking for, some or all of that particular workflow can be built or just added to an existing workflow within ServiceNow. So the answer, I guess, to your question is it's both, right? There's pre-built components and from scratch components, because the reality is that the resources or components inside of the Era platform and the databases and whatever, they may not exist today, but now once you deploy the plugin, they will, and then you can build the workflow accordingly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, and right. So totally to agree, like ServiceNow can do anything, right? Just how long do you want to spend plumbing it up? But yeah, and not at the risk of reading release notes on a podcast, because nobody would listen to that podcast but me.
Go ahead.
The out of the box, the plugin lets you, yeah, for sure, deploy, provision databases, clone databases, and then of course clean up all that stuff when it's no longer needed, right? So the core functionality of what Era does of letting you either build new database servers, new databases, or cloning existing stuff to create new writable copies of databases.
Gotcha. Thanks, guys.
So John's new to us. He wouldn't know this. So here's the ServiceNow store where they have the Era plugin, I guess, written by Nutanix. John, here's the liquidware plugin for ServiceNow. Guess who wrote that?
I don't know. Who, Andy?
XenTegra wrote that.
Oh.
So XenTegra can write plugins for just about anything you want.
Yep, that is very true.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a great capability, right, of the platform, is that, and where our partners can come in and build things that other vendors can't, potentially because there's contention with the solution because it's joining multiple different vendor solutions together, and a partner like you guys can do that. And it's a great place to have work that is done typically in isolation be able to be scaled in the marketplace and showcase value to our all mutual customers, right? That's a big deal.
I think one way to kind of sum this up, and we don't have to sum it up, we can keep talking, but ServiceNow is building a platform that's very, very extensible, very, very manageable. And companies like Nutanix are creating programs that can be called upon by platforms like ServiceNow to do just about anything in their world, to orchestrate it, automate it, create workflows, approvals, disapprovals, deletions, you name it.
Yeah, agreed. And I would, to paint that picture in more detail. So here in this example, you have a vendor that has built a plugin specifically around the actions that it has, which provisions, clones, does some management around database provisioning and deployment, et cetera. Well, that request, like Jero was saying before, you might need somebody to get approval to do that. But you also might want to reclaim it when you're done working on it. And you also might need to provision some other resources that are attached to using this database, like a web server or some other virtual machines or load balancer or test framework, or the list goes on, right? So what you could do in ServiceNow in this platform of the requests and workflows, where you have this tool, this application that this vendor Nutanix has built to do something specific, you can basically extend the value of that individual request that Nutanix has put together and attach all of that stuff that I just mentioned and put it into a store that works like Amazon.com for your entire enterprise. So now you have this 5,000 employee company that has so many administrators and database users, et cetera, that would typically need to spend a lot of manual hours on each individual component of all the things that I just said to build this infrastructure. And it's all being automated at the start of this technology that's automating and building out databases to now do the entire thing. And that's what the power of the platform and our vendor technologies can do.
Eric, do you have numbers that backs up the amount of time spent for someone getting the workflow into ServiceNow? How much time is saved in the long run? Is that something you could even calculate?
So we actually do try and help customers calculate that kind of stuff. For this particular example, obviously, I don't have any data, but we do have a couple of different ROI calculators on our website that are available for customers to take advantage of. But we also have some in-platform technologies that once they are a customer, you can actually have a dashboard that showcases the amount of automated tasks that are happening on platform, what they are, what the categories are, and then you can attach it to, you know, monetary value of man hours and what it may be, and you can actually see what the real value is of the actions on the platform. And we do also have some tools that allow you to analyze the platform as it is today using some machine learning that we have on platform to actually make intelligent recommendations of what you should be doing in the future and how much time and effort that would save you too. So I don't have numbers today, but we do have the tools necessary to give it.
But it's jaw dropping, right? I mean, it truly proves its worth quickly.
Yeah, the short answer is, I mean, hundreds of thousands of hours saved across multiple organizations. I mean, pick a use case, and we have a case study that showcases a real value of hundreds of hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars saved by automating.
See, Jaira, I told you, automation with a good platform, it's a no-brainer.
Man, you're right. I now I see the light. No. I can picture this as almost like automation itself, a useful shortcut to getting work done. This is almost like, it could be for some organizations, like a shortcut to the shortcut, right? Like if I give a developer a button, like build me a new test environment to test a new build out. Well, if his application needs some sample data, right? So I can absolutely picture the ServiceNow workflow that says like, build my VM, build the front end, build the back end, build the database server, and then do a SQL restore to restore like sanitized, scrubbed, not real customer data into that, and then test your app against it. And I say this is a shortcut to a shortcut potentially, because it's like, well, now instead of doing a SQL restore, that's like a database clone, a writable database clone. That happens in minutes, right? Maybe not an hour for a full SQL restore, right? So now we're saving time by automating even more automations, right? So just even more, even faster delivery back to the business of what people need to get their job done.
Yeah, I just think of this too as, even though we're talking through the time it saves, like I'm thinking also in the amount of man hours by actual people, right? Because to do what we're talking about from start to finish is not all done by one person. This is done by teams of people, groups of people, separate groups of people. Separate groups to approve the separate groups. Like this is a lot of people who are involved in doing this potentially when you don't have tools like Era and ServiceNow.
Well, and I mean, I think we've all got to varying degrees like a real infrastructure background on this call, right? It's easy to imagine all the things this can save you from, right? Hey, this IP pool is 90% depleted. Let's go get some more allocations before we, compared to what? get out the IP scanner, check the Excel sheet and be like, oh crap, we're out of IP addresses. I better go find some somewhere.
Right.
And now you're, behind the 8 ball for a new deployment. Same thing for like, proactive alerting on, hey, you've run this flow enough times that now you're 80% consumed on space. Go get some more space or compute or whatever, or licensing exhaustion, all the things that when you've got this kind of observability, right, to a process that you can do better planning for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all these things will already have parameters that were already set up. That will already be scanning for those things, making sure everything's in place and that you meet all your prerequisites that you've defined. And then before that, you've got your buy-in that's happening. You've got your approvals that are all happening before people start doing work, so that they don't have to go back and take away the work that they've done already. A lot of these projects will get halfway down the line and, then you hear, well, wait, you didn't send this through the CAB or the technical review board or whatever it is. And you got to get rid of that and start over. Like, you already have all of those things in place. And to your comment around this being the shortcut to the shortcut, right? This is the fast path for everything because the path has already been defined. Everybody knows the path. And all you have to do is kick it off. Everything else happens the way it's supposed to, and you've got a predictable outcome in the end.
Well, I would add to that, Harvey, you also have a very powerful tool that could log the steps in the workflow. So if it didn't work,
Absolutely.
you got a way to go track down what happened and fix it.
Absolutely.
Whether it's the Era side or the ServiceNow workflow orchestration, platform request, approval, all that good stuff.
Yeah. And when your business needs change, you have a very easy way to modify this business process that has now been built. That includes the work of a lot of different people and departments where you might need to just make one change. And in the olden days, you would have to effectively train everyone. You'd at least have to get their attention and say, hey, everybody, we're now doing this differently. Whereas now, to them, they may not even know that it's different. And
Right.
Their portion of work is the same. And that's all they need to worry about because it gets put on the train and then it keeps going.
Yeah. And if updating your automation involves like doing like a get checkout, like that could be fine, but you've probably, raised the bar for like who can now update that workflow compared to, hey, I go edit it in ServiceNow.
Yep.
So Jaira, I like that. Imagine you're the subscriber to this and you're kicking off this request, and somewhere along the way it's getting approved. And I bet ServiceNow's able to just pop up and ask, okay, would you like to take a survey at the end of this and tell us how we could make this process better? I mean, I'm sure Era, that's not what it does, but ServiceNow wrapping around that does, I bet.
We do.
I used to use a product that did like cloud-based access point management. And every single page of that UI had a I wish button, right? Like, I wish it would do this. I wish it would do that. I've always loved that feature of a, who will tell you what the product needs to do? Well, people that are using it right then, right? And that are getting frustrated because I don't find the button I want to do the thing I want to do. It's an amazing capture ability.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I know we even talked about this, Andy, in I think I was our first podcast about user-centric design, where you're really building the workflows to subscribe, or is that the right word? Subscribe to the users and what they need and want from it, right? And that's really the most important thing. You don't want to just design it in a vacuum and say, here you go. But ServiceNow definitely also provides tools to monitor current utilization and make improvements along the way when you need to or want to.
Yeah, I think this conversation could go on forever. I mean, just so many more things you can do with this front-ending the capable as a service products that are there, or just any product that has an API that could be called upon. John, you've been quiet the last couple minutes, taking it all in. You're probably the newest to this conversation. What's your takeaway on what ServiceNow does for platforms or integration opportunities like what we're seeing here with Era and Nutanix?
Pretty freaking cool. To put it
That was
simple.
very technical.
Hey,
I mean, I'll take it. Yeah.
that's how I roll, man. No, the integrations, I love it. And this is where I kind of put on that technical marketing. I mean, I definitely like the verbiage of a digital workflow more than automation. But I mean, I get where it's coming from. I think there's, the capabilities are just mind blowing. You can truly do so much. And, Eric, you brought up about, talking with the users and integrating and subscribing to what they're doing. Really, this just opens it up for an organization. Everybody's a customer now. It's not just, who we're selling to or working for, but every single person within that organization and outside the organization, everybody's a stakeholder in this. And the functionality, I mean, really, when you talk about just from this article alone, being able to handle databases in the automated way that it is, there's so much more functionality. I mean, while you guys have been talking, I've been reading a little bit more, just with the alerts integration, the IOPS automation, application request management, governance, the Beam integration that's there. I mean, it's just truly mind blowing. It's a lot to read up on for me.
So Eric, you mentioned a while ago some work with Nutanix from ServiceNow. Did we cover that in this, or was there another shining example of what you've seen done at Nutanix via ServiceNow?
Well, I know that they do have a COM plugin too, which they've publicly talked about, and they actually quoted some specific benefits of that plugin with the automation that came from it. And I think that they were saying that their customers were expecting to lower operational costs by 30%. So they actually coined it where they're taking hyper automation, which is the individual components of what they're doing within the COM plugin, because that's super localized. This is my understanding of it anyway. And then the operational processes, which is what ServiceNow is now automating, and combining those together, which gives their customers the 30% lower cost. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing that I was going to mention, which kind of ties it into a couple of things that we were just talking about, is the picture I painted before of like making the request and reclaiming the stuff and automating that whole thing. If you want to put one more play onto the whole thing, is because ServiceNow can also track all of your IT assets and tie it into event management and actions when alerts are read and created, and we understand what the alerts are, because you're making these requests and you have a database and infrastructure that you're deploying, you can immediately also know who all of the consumers are of whatever it is that you've requested. So now when an alert comes in and there's something wrong, you immediately know who is impacted by this potential outage. And having all of that intelligence at your fingertips, not only are you automating and providing value on the front end of like building all of this out, but when something goes sideways, you have the ability to react much more quickly and know the importance to your organization about what's going on, right? And that's something that is not immediately relevant, or not relevant, but realized when you talk about automating database deployment. But when you tie it to the whole picture of what you can do with all of this intelligence and automation, it's really powerful to any customer that would want to take advantage of this. You're helping both sides when it's up and running and things go sideways, to just saving people time on the front end.
I can see that really shining a light on some, like Harvey touched on, like CAB processes, right? Like we have to approve this change without maybe a full understanding of like, what are the ramifications of it? But when it can just spell out, here's what this is supporting, that crystallizes that so much faster.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? ServiceNow has a product called the CAB board meetings that you can automate a lot of the change advisory board stuff that you would need to go through, as well as just basic change management, right? So that's a key tenet of ServiceNow long before we ever started doing any kind of data center cloud management or plugging into different vendor technologies. Change management was a key tenet of it. So it still is today. And that's a perfect example.
Well, guys, I think we've covered it. Harvey, anything you feel like we've left out that needs to be said?
If you have Nutanix and you have ServiceNow and you're not having them work together, you are missing out.
Indeed.
True story.
And
Or
I
if
think
you only have
Harvey
one, you
also,
probably need the other.
I think Harvey said, if you have Nutanix and you'd like to buy and implement ServiceNow, call Harvey.
Yes.
And if you
the
have
other way
ServiceNow
around,
and you'd
too,
like
if
to
you
buy
have-
Nutanix, call Harvey.
That's right. Very good. Yes, that is the moral of the story today.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about driving business, but good business. Jaira, anything else we left out?
No, maybe just to highlight that we've got, .next coming up here, and I'm sure you'll have lots of great sessions highlighting automation, highlighting business processes in ServiceNow at that as well. So put that on your calendars and be sure and attend, because of course it's virtual and free.
What's the actual date?
It's going to be, I should have pulled that up.
No worries.
September 20th.
September 20th through the 23rd.
Look at that.
Nailed it. Way to go, Harvey.
All right. I get excited about it, at the same time I get frustrated because we're still not back in person and so much opportunity to spend time with people, but nonetheless, we'll get there eventually. Eric, anything from your side that we may have left out or you'd like to talk about?
The only thing I would say is I appreciate the time. ServiceNow is on the cusp of releasing our next release called Rome. That will be out on or around sometime in the middle of September. I'm not allowed to quote the exact date just in case something changes at the last second, but we're very excited about that release. It has even more capability around automation and integrating into different vendor technologies. So I'm looking forward to it. And since ServiceNow is a cloud platform, all of our customers will be able to take advantage of it as soon as it is released, assuming they upgrade. And that's available to everybody through our partners that can upgrade for them. So that's my plug.
Yeah, great. John, your side?
I'm just looking forward to getting more in-depth knowledge on my own on this, but I do have one key question here, down here at the bottom of the blog. When did you guys hire app detectives? Oh, I dated myself, didn't I? Look at this. Everybody's like, what are you talking about? Andy knows.
Is that not the STIG?
Yeah, but all right, never mind. On that note, pups.
All right. Is that this guy? Is this app detective?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, from back in the day?
Yeah.
All
Old
right.
Twitter account. Oh man.
Well, as John brought us to a crashing halt here at the end of the podcast,
Nutanix hands-on workshop on the 16th.
register for Harvey's Nutanix XenTegras, led by Harvey Green. Hands-on workshop 16. Harvey, you got a few people signed up already, right?
I do.
All right.
I'll take
Let's-
more.
Let's always take more. Well, guys, I appreciate it. It's the end of a Monday, and I got about 1,000 emails to go answer, but I appreciate you guys joining.
Cool. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Nice meeting everyone.